welcome everybody to the first episode of Current Cinema Podcast. It's been a long time coming, I think for me at least. And Kyle is with me. My name is Jeff. We are obviously we're from the Current Gen Podcast. And I've been wanting to do a movie-focused podcast for a long time. It sounds like Kyle has too. He's had some pent-up thoughts on movies that he wanted to share in a long-form context, kind of like me. So yeah, that's why we started this whole thing. I think I made it pretty clear on the Current Gen podcast that movies are my baby, and I love them so much. I do love gaming too, but like movies get the edge a little bit there. Yeah. And I think the most interesting thing about movies, for me at least, is like the fact that if you look at the grand scope of your life, it's like a really tiny sliver of it, right? It's like 2 hours maybe at most, unless you're James Cameron and you insist on making 16-hour movies. It's sorry to do a James Cameron.
The first of many jabs.
The first 5 minutes of the. But it's just one of those things where 2 hours, a very tiny sliver of your life, and they can even potentially change your outlook on life and how you approach it and how and the way you behave and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. Yeah. So I mean, that's the main reason why I love movies. But there's other reasons, like visually, like cinematography wise and, visual effects wise and stuff like that. Obviously, that's on the surface that you can appreciate as well. But that's why, for me, I've always wanted to do something long form like this. I don't know about what about you, Kyle? Is that kind of like the same for you?
Yeah, I feel very similarly, and I know you can relate to this because we've talked about this really recently, but there have been new movie, maybe it's a movie I've seen 100 times, and it'll be the exact thing, make a change and it's just so I'm very I don't know how many people understand this reference, but Abed from Community, where as often as I can to make sense of reality, I'll relate it to it's just like that movie Blade Runner, or whatever, I'll always try and sneak it in somewhere.
Exactly.
Trying to make sense of stuff. So they are my religion, as he would say. I feel as passionately about movies as Jeff does. Jeff sees a lot more movies than I do, so he's where my edge may come in. It's not.
I'm getting some freezing from you, buddy.
Again, to be taken on a ride for 2 hours or 2.5 or an hour and a half or whatever it is, and come out the other side changed, in some kind of way. It's pretty powerful stuff. So
yeah, definitely. You froze for a little bit there, but I caught the tail end of it.
Of course I did.
Effing Ethernet cables, man. We want to go to the Mars, but Ethernet cables can't sit in their slot comfortably.
If I freeze again, let me know, and I'll reset or something.
So that's why we wanted to start a podcast. At least I did, and I'll have other Current Gen guys on here too, but mainly it'll be Kyle and I, because we've had a podcast rapport before, where we did in 2015. We started There Is No Podcast, which was kind of dabbled in everything pop culture related, everything movies and games and shows and all this stuff. And then we did a tournament based podcast for a bit with our friend JD. R.I.P. JD. We haven't talked to him in a while.
He's dead.
He's dead. He's straight up dead. The D in JD stands for dead. So new nickname alert. We've got a gazillion nicknames for him that JD stands for, and that's one of them now.
Now he's just dead. Yeah.
Just dead. And so we did a tournament thing, and yes, we had movies come up then too, but it was still a mix of a lot of pop culture stuff. We even did one for stand-up comics and wrestlers and stuff, and that was a really fun podcast. But I always, again, my heart was always I want to do something movie related, because I don't like writing reviews, long form reviews. I've tried that. You and I have both tried that. It's something about it is just not as fun or something. I don't know what it is. This definitely why we wanted to get this going. So I wanted to touch on how this differs from Current Gen Podcast. There's really not much to dive into there. We really just wanted a space for just movies, where we can dive way deeper into the themes of movies that we just don't really have the same amount of time for in Current Gen, because that's obviously, it's a video game focused podcast, and And we do love being on that, but it's just sometimes it'll be like at the tail end, it'll be like, let's focus on what we're watching, but we have to move on. There's 5 of us. There's a lot of mouths to feed on that podcast. So we just wanted to create a different space for it. But yeah, we're still going to talk about movies on that show for sure. But it'll be different types of movies. It'll be more well-known movies and stuff like that. I would say, at least that's my logic. I don't know if you agree with that or what, but
probably, yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm thinking that we'll talk, because
we're the ones that show up with weird movies every week.
Yeah,
where it's like, I watched Triangle of Sadness, and let me tell you, and everyone's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm not going to watch a half foreign movie. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah,
it's a harder sell on that podcast, or at least with the intended audience of that podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, this is what we're gonna. That's why it's called Current Cinema and not like Current just movie fun or whatever, because cinema, in the sense that Scorsese says in his sometimes pretentious way, where it's like, that's cinema, that's me, that's cinema, and you're like, okay, calm down, Marty. Like
everything that isn't Marvel is cinema. That's kind of what I picked up from Scorsese.
So yeah,
real movies, Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. We're here to talk about real movies, guys. Okay. Not this fake Marvel crap. We're totally going to talk about Marvel too.
Yeah, I love Marvel. I don't care. Yeah, popcorn me up, baby. I don't give a shit.
Also, I just wanted to touch on the intro theme that was done only because it's got movie quotes in it and stuff. That was done by me. I did like beginning, middle, and end. I did the entire thing from front to back on GarageBand and iPad. And the quotes I added are quotes that I and sometimes Kyle, we say all the time. So like that's why I put them in there. Like the Inception quote, the Matrix quote, Superbad. I think it ends on Dumb and Dumber. We still say all of that stuff.
Before there were memes, we all just quoted the same 5 movies at each other,
right?
In the 90s and the early 2000s. So.
And we still even do the welp. Like I still say the welp, see you later thing.
Yeah, welp, see you later.
I'm like at work or something.
I don't even think since we've started hanging out and talking again, have not gone a single day without saying something that from the Matrix specifically. Yeah. How does he do it if he's dead?
Yeah, exactly. We say that all the time. Like we'll find the most manufactured, contrived way to plug that into a conversation with other friends and stuff.
Sometimes I'll just force it if I know we haven't said it yet. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun. And there was a comment that somebody made, like, again, this was years ago when we did the tournament thing, where it's like, somebody must have left a comment that really stuck with me about, you guys are just trying to make yourselves laugh the whole time. So there's going to be a lot of that. If that's not your thing, where we're trying to just make jokes, laugh, and have fun, you might want to turn this off. But I don't know why I'm bringing that up, because that was like a years old comment.
Yeah.
But it's something that like stuck with me for some reason.
Same. I do this for fun. Y'all are just here for the ride,
Yeah. We're doing this for each other, basically. And we always have. That was our goal when we started podcasting. Almost, oh my gosh, it's almost been 10 years, dude. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah. Creating 101. Create something you would watch. Create something you would listen to. Create something you would enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the priority. It's always a priority. And if people are along for the ride, dude, and you like it, oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's icing on it.
But we're also pretty deep thinkers, so you're also outside of all the dumb jokes, like where you're gonna see us breaking down movies in really thoughtful and deep, and maybe ways that you don't watch movies. We're watching it maybe on a level that we could share something with you that you don't realize or don't peel back the onion enough on. So.
Right, or we just perceive movies totally different than other people, and that's okay too. I mean,
and that's art. It's all up to interpretation. So sometimes he and I were going to pull different messages from the same.
Kind of the same. Whenever we just got done with the Game of the Year debates on the Current Gen podcast, and like it's kind of the same in terms of like how certain games might hit people. Like I think an example would be Sifu, where like you and I really love that game, and the story just surprised me and how deep it got. And whereas somebody else on the podcast might be like, didn't really hit me that way, like, and it's like, well, that's a subjective art experience. I mean, you find that across all mediums, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much the same thing. So primarily what I plan to do every week, and this is going to change, obviously, as we go along. I do want to keep it hour-longs because the Current Gen podcast can go the length of a Joe Rogan episode. It's kind of crazy how long.
I always said we're the Joe Rogan of video game podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
there's 5 of us, and we like, and that's again that's another thing where that's for us to have fun and stuff like that. So the 5 of us get together every week, and it goes long because there's so many of us, and we want to give that space for that. But I think that you always had intentions of keeping it on an hour, because that's about the length of a podcast that you would listen to, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Even especially one about movies. Yeah.
Sometimes droning on about a movie for 3 hours might be a lot. Yeah, because it's you know, it's different than video games, and I think that's kind of the main reason you wanted to do this, is because movies do offer such a different.
It's different, and it's a more compact experience. So that means you don't really, I mean, unless you're talking about a franchise that you and I love, like The Matrix. You don't really want to spend 3 hours talking about a movie that long.
I could talk about The Matrix for 3 hours.
I could about The Matrix, yeah. I mean, there's 4 movies worth of stuff to dig into on that. But yeah, anyway, for every week, though, as far as format is concerned, we will do a segment. I'm just going to call it, these are like the most lazily titled segments ever. One will just be called What Did You Watch? And we'll try to focus on a new movie of the week that just might have just come out. And then a second movie that we watched that is an older one that can either be a movie you just rewatched, or a movie you watched for the first time that's a little bit older. And by new movie, I do mean something that might have come out in hopefully in the last 6 months or something like that. So it doesn't have to be something that just came out, because some weekends we don't have any. Like, I'm not going to see Plane in a movie theater. Sorry, that movie just doesn't appeal to me.
I won't let you make me.
So instead I saw something else. But that came out that did its stupid award push where it came out a month ago somewhere else first, and just now Dallas got the movie in theaters. So that's my example of a new movie. And then you can obviously pick whatever you might have just seen that's a 2022 release. That's still kind of fresh on people's minds because the award season is upon us and stuff. So, we'll just start with that. And then we're going to do a segment called Pick 5, and I'll elaborate on that as we get into it. But yeah, for What Did You Watch? Do you have a new, quote unquote, new movie that you watched?
Yeah, let me, I think I had a few I was going to let you choose from, but I think I know which one I just want to choose, so we could just get into that. So,
why not?
The Triangle of Sadness is what I watched. Yeah, this was a movie.
What a ride, dude.
I didn't see any trailers for this movie. You know, I didn't see anything about this movie. Descriptions of it are vague. You know, I kind of knew there was a yacht because the description's rich people go on a yacht and things happen. It's really vague. I'm appreciative of that, because when I went into the movie and it started, I was like, oh, Jeff's got me watching one of these weird indie romance movies or something. This is so weird, because that's kind of what it is at the beginning, is this weird kind of couple that are arguing, about social norms and gender roles and all that stuff, and I'm just like, okay, all right, this is interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much we want to get into spoilers for these movies. We would just kind of want to talk basic.
We kind of, on this one in particular, because Triangle of Sadness is one that I expect that a lot of people might not have seen. I guess we should kind of be careful. Just be careful.
Yeah. I won't spoil too much, and I know exactly what I want to say without giving too much away. But the movie quickly gives way to a second act that changes everything about the pacing and the structure of the movie. You meet a lot of zany new characters. I don't think it's spoiler to talk about the weird characters that are in it.
If they're in the cast list, we should be able to talk.
Yeah. There's this English couple that sell weapons. Around they're they're Lord of War people.
They're the most unassuming, nice old couple. And they're oh yeah, we sell weapons, and they're so happy to talk.
We
about
sell
it.
products that are involved in mutual splits from governments, or it's very funny. And that's the other thing is it's kind of a dark comedy, which the beginning of the movie is not funny at all. It's just kind of the serious kind of back and forth with this, with this younger couple or whatever, an influencer and a model. Yeah. And quickly you'll realize the cast kind of represent different rich people, new money, old money, whatever money, so just money.
That's kind of
and they all go on this trip, and then things ensue, and the things that I want to really focus in on are just the what the movie had to say just about different types of like socialism and capitalism and stuff like that. And you know, I think going too much further into it might divulge too much, but it's not the movie you sign up for.
It's not.
And by the end of it, it changes so many times. You're kind of like, what did I just watch? Like in a really glorious way, you know?
I think so too.
And again, like, and I didn't know anything going in. Maybe I think the trailers don't give too much away. I think you were kind of applauding it about that.
They say kind of what you said, where the trailers show, okay, there's this hot couple, all right, and they're going through some troubles, and they go on a yacht, all right, and that's about it. The trailer doesn't really show you plot movement as much as it focuses on the nutty, because it is advertised as a comedy. They show you the nutty moments, like the vomiting and stuff like that. There's a lot of vomit and poop in it.
Yeah, if you don't like pooping and vomiting, maybe stay away from this one. I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. It ended up being in my top 10. You and I had a long conversation about like all of its meanings and stuff like that. And there are a lot of just great usage of like Marxism and all sorts of different political thought processes that break down and justify why people are the way they are in these social classes and everything. It was something very cool, and it's just living rent free in my brain right now. You know, like all these weeks later after watching it, I'm just like, I can't stop thinking about this movie. Goodness.
I saw it whenever it came out to theaters. November, October, somewhere in the fall range, and it wasn't like a sold out showing or anything, but it was certainly. There were certainly enough people there that when they rolled credits there, I heard a lot of murmurs about like, what the hell was that type of talks? Like, because when it ends, it just kind of leaves you hanging. And you're kind of left to think about what you just watched, and everybody was kind of not ready to process it or not willing to, for the most part, or some of us like me just walked out quietly like, like just kind of internalizing what we thought about it. Whereas a lot of older people were like, well, that was a load of crap and stuff. Like, I mean, there was some
of course they were. Like, of course they were.
Yeah, they just don't want to dissect a movie like that because it's a lot, and it's like 2.5 hours of a lot.
And it wants you to think about it a lot, about what it's trying to say, and what does that what does that kind of stuff mean to you and everything. And
I remember the first time I watched it, it was like both you and I are on Letterboxd, and we'll pimp those out, plug those at the end of the show or whatever. But the first time I rated it, it was like 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, something about it's not clicking with me yet, and it wasn't until like I thought about it more that I was like, okay, this is like I made a top 25 for the year. I was like, okay, this is a top 25 contender. That the story was making from the first act to the third act, and I was like, okay, so this movie is genius, and I totally did miss this part. So it ended up in my top 10 too, because did
it make your
wow. Like I totally changed my top 10 because of our conversation on it, and how like you were making observations on the movie that I hadn't even thought about yet.
You had set me up to come into the movie thinking, so I didn't show up to watch some kind of goofy comedy on a yacht,
exactly.
Which may be a lot of what people. Oh, Woody Harrelson's in this movie. This is going to be great, which he is great. And that is great.
Yeah.
But it's not what the movie's really about, and it's I wouldn't even call it like you have to dig deep to find these themes. They're pretty surface level, these themes,
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, some of them, like especially when in the third act, there's a lot of the stuff is on the nose, and in the first act, like there's those parallels with the first and the third act. But in the first act, especially, like they're being when they're arguing, they're talking about very specific themes that the movie dives into, and you're like, okay, well, they're just flat out telling us what the movie's about. So you're not going to have to dive too deep, but there are some people that felt very left in the cold, at least of the reviews that I've watched and read. They felt left in the cold by the ending and stuff like that, and how like they were kind of like, that was a weird choice. Like it felt like there was more to say, but at the same time, it was a long enough movie. So how do you really reconcile? Like, I mean, this guy ends his movies very deliberately on such a cold note that it leaves you thinking. He did the same thing on his other movie.
It's a hard cut to black,
It is. And he did the same exact thing, kind of. It's a slower movie, pacing-wise, but there's a movie called Force Majeure that he did, where it's about this couple, and it's the same kind of comedy, where it's like situational comedy, and your brain is laughing, but you might not be outwardly laughing, so expressively or anything. But like, so the premise of that movie is this married couple and their kids go on this ski resort. I think it's in the Alps, and it's during the winter time. And there's an avalanche that happens, and the husband immediately runs away, and the kids and the wife are like left there at the table among all these other patrons. Like they're all trying to take cover and stuff like that. And so the rest of the movie is about him having run away and abandoned his family. And how do they really feel about that?
Sure.
What does that mean? Like how does he actually feel about his family?
I love that.
And it's great. It's them like trying to avoid the fight and get into the fight about it. And it ends similarly where you're like, what the hell? Like, but he's the kind of writer and director who doesn't do it without a purpose. So you kind of have to think about why did that happen? And not so much hate that it happened, and if you can't reason with the why, or you just don't agree with it, then okay, I get that. Like, because it's not going to be for everybody.
This is definitely a one where I'm not going to rush to Facebook or whatever and go, everyone's got to go out and see this movie.
Right.
It's very particular, and I think it caught me in a really good mood because there is and I don't think this is a spoiler either, but this is a very of the trend of the fuck the rich trend, in cinema that's going on right now.
Yeah, with
where
that
it's just
and,
it's just about taking the rich people down a peg or two,
And Glass Onion did that, and there was another movie that The Menu did that too.
The Menu, yeah. Ready or Not a couple years ago was making them look like buffoons, rich people look like buffoons.
Ready or Not was more like, look how weird rich people are though. Like they have their
and stupid customs. Though. Like everyone was kind of dumb in that movie too. So. Which that cascades over across a lot of these movies that we're talking about as well. Definitely. This rich people are just dumb people with money, and it hits a lot of those notes. And I was walking into that movie like it's just in the right mood. So I feel like it is a movie that's asking a lot out of its viewer. But like if you're showing up to see a movie that you're kind of peeling away at its themes at, like this one's got a lot of layers to it if you wanna dive into it. So
we'll say it's kind of like, much like you said, that you wouldn't go out of your way to like recommend it to literally everybody. It's kind of similar to anything Nicholas Winding Refn does that's new, like Copenhagen Cowboy, where it's like that's totally different flavor. It's way more slow and indulgent, and I recognize that, but I still love it. So like
same.
So like it's kind of like that. But yet
it's why people booed there is no God, or what is that? Only God forgives. Thank you. Openly at Cannes, they're like, screw this movie, boo. And you and I were like, that movie was excellent. Are you kidding me?
but at the same time, we would never go out of our way to be like,
no, they didn't tell them they were wrong.
Exactly.
I get it. I was like, it's a pretty pretentious movie, but boy, I was totally here for it.
Speaking of Copenhagen Cowboy, the same actor who had the frizzy kind of hair from Triangle of Sadness was also in that.
He was one of the gangsters. Yeah.
He was in Copenhagen Cowboy. He was a gangster, and in this one, he was just like a crazy kind of rich guy, an orthodox personality of sorts. And he's very funny. And in fact, if I could hand out awards personally, I would give him one for sure for that performance.
He was great in that movie.
He was such a standout. But yeah, that's a great movie. That's a great first choice. Mine is also another. We're getting extra pretentious in this first episode.
Yeah, we ourselves are pretentious and self-indulgent. So maybe that says a little bit about our love for these weirdos.
We'll soon talk about movies that everybody knows. I promise you. But yes, I did see Women Talking, which came out, and I think around Christmas time it came out like in select cities, which to me means New York and LA, and that's it. And then they said, okay, a month later we'll give it to the rest of the world. So that's why it just came out to Dallas this weekend.
Gotcha.
This is a movie directed by Sarah Polley. I think she wrote it or co-wrote it too. And she is the star of the Zack Snyder, James Gunn, Dawn of the Dead. If you're familiar, that's the blonde girl. She's
the nurse.
So, she's transitioned over into directing and writing and stuff. I don't think this is the first movie, but this is definitely the one that she's getting the most attention for. And the title of the movie is so silly. Women Talking.
It's one of those movies that, like in 2023, when you hear that name, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna gather a lot lot of attention." That's probably not the attention that it wants.
It's kind of like in the current gen group how people reacted when they saw the Woman King title. I'm like, yeah, I get it, guys. It's a dumb title. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But trust that it's actually really good. It's actually really good. So the premise here is it's a very simple title for such a complex premise of this. It takes place in a commune, like a religious Mennonite commune or whatever.
Okay.
And it's kind of picking up in the aftermath of all of these men within the community have been sexually assaulting or raping all the women, basically. They've been like, just like, I think like 5 or 6 men have consistently been doing it. And so this occurs in the aftermath of the men have been reported on, and some of them are in jail now. And so the women are left to kind of decide between 3 options. Do they want to stay and fight, or do they want to just forgive the men, or do they want to leave? But the catch is, if they leave, they're not going to be allowed into the kingdom of heaven. That's their belief system, at least.
Okay.
So that's the whole movie is really quite literally what the title says. It's the women talking amongst themselves, and some of them are a little more forgiving, especially because some, like Jessie Buckley's character, is married to one of the accused. And she's a little more like on the forgiving side, because she feels obligated. Like, if I don't forgive him, my family's broken. Like, and she has several kids and stuff. And Claire Foy's character, she's a little more passionately like, we got to fight these guys or we got to leave. Like, that's it. And she's like definitely rightfully angry, and she's got so many great monologues about why. And then there's this male character in the story, who's literally just there to take the minutes just take notes during the meetings. And it's played by Ben Whishaw, and who was he? He was Q, I think, in the Daniel Craig Bonds.
Okay.
The kind of wiry, squirrely looking dude.
Yeah. Trying to think of other movies he was from, but yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I think that's the main one that I can recall him from. I think he voices Paddington as well. Don't get me started.
That Beatles movie, was he not in that?
Was he in that one? Which Beatles?
Or was that
movie?
The other guy? It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, I think. Are you talking about the Across the Universe?
Yeah, Across the Universe. Yeah,
I think that was
a different guy.
Confusing him with Jim Sturgis.
Yeah, I think I am. I think
what happened to that guy?
Jim Sturgis and the guy. No. You know what? Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I totally got that mixed up.
Anyway, it's kind of interesting.
That English dude.
That the obviously it's probably because I've identified with that character because he's a male character, but his character just broke my heart in 13 different ways the entire movie. Like, it's kind of crazy his trajectory and how he was written and stuff like that. Just kind of broke my heart, man. And there are some emotional moments, and then there are some performances like Rooney Mara, who's great. She's a great actress, but some of the lines that were written for her were a little too Jesus-y, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Where she's being a little too passive about everything to the point where it's cringe. And I'm like, I understand that they are part of a religious community and they're going to genuinely talk this way sometimes, but it's a little much sometimes. Like, it's a little too holy, even though they're in the religious community. Again, I get that.
And those people exist,
But sometimes she talks in like so many like metaphors and stuff that I'm just like, just say what you mean. Like,
sure.
These other actors, like,
hey, that's religion,
Claire Foy, and like, yeah, I know. But like Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley, they're saying on the surface what they mean and what they feel. And she's like talking in riddles and crap. And I'm like, okay, come on. This is like not a real person. It's still a great movie though. But that's the thing that kind of keeps me from it, is the subject matter and the color. It's got like a color tint to it where it's kind of bluish gray. The whole movie. Yeah, there's a little saturation going on that kind of doesn't really appeal to my eyes. So that's another thing that might keep me from rewatching it. But it is a brisk 90-minute watch. Yeah, it's got some great dialogue otherwise, and some great interactions.
Thanks, creators, for making movies short sometimes.
Oh, dude, for real. What a welcome, refreshing experience that was. The theater experience was not fun because like 14 or 15 kids came in 5 minutes into the movie that didn't buy tickets, and they were just loitering and being on their phone, and they were talking and stuff, and then a cop came in and kicked them out. So that was nice. That was a fun time.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. Somebody else had the guts and gumption, I guess, to go actually get somebody and snitch. And
I'll sit there and weather it. I don't care.
I'm too lazy.
I'll just sit there. I'm just mad about this.
Yeah. I'll just make noises and stare at them the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Quiet.
Shut the hell up. But that was an interesting experience. I haven't had anything like every time you go to theater, you have the worst luck.
I'm kind of done going to the theater. This movie is going to force me to go back to the theater because I declared back in November during Black Panther, I was like, I'm done with this.
Every time you go,
it's either on TV or not at all.
Every time you go, you get that experience that I dread, where you're constantly interrupted with noises and stuff, and rude people just talking. So that was the first time that it happened for me. It's been a long time since I've had to bring up like, oh my God, my theater experience was just terrible. But fortunately they left, I want to say it was like 20 minutes in, they were kicked out. So I still got to experience a huge chunk of the drama and be sucked in. I still like the movie a lot. And I think it's potentially, as far as award season is concerned, I think it's like the front runner for best, I think it's based on a book. So best adapted screenplay.
Cool.
Although I do wish Glass Onion were the front runner for that one. I think that's considered an adaptation because it's based on a sequel or based on an original movie.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I hope that wins something.
I know, dude.
We're a little bitter about that movie, Jeff.
Give it production design or something, because that house is immaculate and they destroyed so much of it. It's so good.
Yeah.
So those are the new movies. And as far as old movies, do you have an old movie that you watch that, like, you can even pick one that you rewatch that you watch all the time and you're like, you know what?
Yeah. I brought it up the other day, where I just watched Men, weird movie. We won't get into that. I liked it. It's very weird, but I was like, I gotta want to watch that guy's more weird stuff. So I watched Annihilation again, which is one of my favorite sci-fi movies ever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love that movie. I think the cast in that movie is excellent. I think the amount of times it took me to watch stuff and realize stuff, it's just it in and itself is a very complicated, high concept sci-fi. Really like the cast in that movie, man. Like Oscar Isaac. I remember in the movie, he's playing like a 31-year-old or whatever, and I'm like, come on, get out of here with that. That's crazy. But like, it's just funny that like all these like 30-somethings or whatever are the only thing holding back this glimmer, thing that's coming and swallowing the earth, so it's just like, it's funny as we're getting older, I'm just like, oh yeah, young people really control the world, man.
Yeah.
And we're old and obsolete now, and everyone that we watch change the world is younger now.
Not that this is a movie I want to talk about, but I watched the movie Parenthood for the first time, which is, I think it's a Ron Howard movie, but Steve Martin's character plays like 34 in it. He literally says aloud, I'm 35.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look remotely 35, and I think he was like in his 40s when he shot that movie.
Sure.
So I'm like, come on, guys.
There are real 31-year-olds out there, guys. We don't have to spend too much time on it, man. Like, you and I have had long conversations about this movie. It's awesome. Natalie Portman is amazing. The ending is such a trip. And again, like, once you start the bear scene in that movie, because the whole idea of that movie is like all the cells and everything are like fusing together and creating new creations in there. So you have like crocodiles with shark teeth and, like all this nutty stuff. Different plants are growing into each other and changing their genetic, makeup and everything. And you run across some creatures that are just like truly terrifying in this movie.
There's such an amazing like visual style in that movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It is a treat to watch. Alex Garland's at the top of this game.
On some drugs for that one. Yeah.
It's like if Ex Machina was like a really good surface level movie, like about like ghosts and machines, like waking up and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This is a high concept, weird. What's the most abstract, existential thing I can think of, and that's what we're going to shoot a movie about.
Right.
And luckily there is a book out there that kind of hit some of the notes he wanted to. But from what I understand, he changed a lot. And
I think I recall reading that too.
Yeah, and like it ended up probably being better for it. So man, I just love that movie so
much.
I
love that movie. Yeah, I love that movie quite a bit. And the ending really, really sticks with me in like a haunting way. It's
big time. Yeah.
So gorgeously shot and like so WTF worthy and just
big time.
So good. Dude.
When a movie, like when I have to stop and go, what is going on? I'm watching a movie for me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that one. I think that was 2018, right? So that amazing year for movies. I think that was my number one for that year, and that came out in like Q1. I think that was like a March movie, and I think it
was. Yeah,
it was kind of similar to
lasted.
Yeah, exactly. Entire year, and that year was amazing. That if you go back and look at all the movies that came out, like Avengers: Infinity War came out, that wasn't even in my 10 because that year was so busy. There was so much great stuff out. same thing happened with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw it in like Q1, end of March, whatever, early April, and it lasted the entire year. Like
I think I watched it by April or May, and like
yeah,
I was like, no, nothing's dethroning this.
Nothing's gonna beat that movie.
I saw Northman first, and I was like, nothing's beating this movie.
Yeah,
like,
I know. That's a Kyle.
I don't know about that, dude. So when I finally watched it, I was just like, what the hell is Northman? Ended up being my number 2 movie of the year, but like,
same here. You and I had the same top 3 for last year, which is kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
In the same order, I think, because we both loved the Northman. Like, I mean, you loved it more. You have more of the Viking affinity stuff, but I still like 5 stars easy because that movie was so sure of itself. And there's something about movies like where the director knows exactly what they're doing, like 100% of the movie. That makes the quality like increase for me. Like,
and it's super Shakespearean in its storytelling, so they didn't have to spend too much time on like telling that type of story. So they got to really dive into the style of everything, and the war of the Vikings and stuff. So.
Yeah, and some of the fantasy sequences were just unreal, like the Bjork stuff and him fighting for the sword.
The Valkyrie that shows up,
Oh my gosh, dude, that movie's so dumb. It looks so good, it's dumb. Like, it's
it's kind of out of this world. They fight at a volcano at the end of this movie.
Yeah, I know.
It's the best thing ever.
And they're just
Everything Everywhere All at Once is.
Yeah, I know.
Like 3 times the movie that movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great movie. So the old movie that I watched, and this was a rewatch for me, but it had been since I used to work at Blockbuster. That should surprise nobody. That's around my age. For the Gen Z people, Blockbuster was a place you went to and you rented movies.
Remember what Redbox was? Imagine a brick and mortar store.
Exactly. I worked at Blockbuster for 2 years in like 2003-ish, and this was around the time the movie came out to home video, and it's Road to Perdition. This is like an old monster type movie. It came out in 2002, I think, or 2003-ish. So it's like an old timey, what's the word? Prohibition era, I think. Mobster movie where Tom Hanks plays a hitman. And this is like a totally different role for him. And I think he deliberately chose this so he could show a different side of him where he's more stoic and just a little cold-hearted starting out in the movie. But yeah, he plays a hitman who is kind of the adopted son of Paul Newman, who is a mob boss. And Paul Newman does have an actual son played by Daniel Craig. And Daniel Craig and Tom Hanks are constantly at odds with each other because Daniel Craig's jealous, obviously. He's like, I want my father's love, and I feel like he loves Tom Hanks more. So there's some of that going on. But the main story of it, is Tom Hanks's character scope of what he actually does for his boss / adopted dad. So his son, one of his youngest sons, catches him killing somebody. And so the whole movie is like Tom Hanks reckoning with that and realizing that, okay, this puts a target on my back now. So like he feels like Paul Newman's character will probably like start issuing a hit now because of, so he starts to get paranoid. And then it's Daniel Craig, his character, he's kind of a loose cannon hitman. So he's like kind of gets a little insecure and stuff. So he starts, I think he's the one that first issues the hit. He issues a hit out on Tom Hanks. And there's a great scene where Tom Hanks is going to collect a debt from somebody. And when he gives the guy the note, there's a really great moment where he's staring at the guy and they're kind of like looking at each other like, and then Tom Hanks realizing, oh, this guy was given instructions to kill me. So like he starts icing everybody in the room in this amazing scene. But he realizes that the note said, if you kill this guy, all your debts are off, all your debts are paid. And the note came from Daniel Craig's character, basically. So it kind of that's basically what the movie is in a nutshell. And I realize I kind of spoiled like 20 minutes of it, but you need to know that it's like a road movie between Tom Hanks' character and his son, played by Tyler Hoechlin, something like that. He's the guy who plays Superman in the CW, the crappy CW shows. So he aged up into a full-time actor.
Like Smallville Superman or
Superman? No, the new Superman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Superman and Lois guy. It's just a freaking fantastic movie, dude. There's a scene where like you'll recognize it from the poster where Tom Hanks is coming out with like one of those old like machine gun, whatever you call those guns. Tommy guns. He's coming out of the rain with a Tommy gun. And that is a scene in the movie where he's like, he's about to attack all these people, but you just see the gunshots, and you don't see him until he emerges from the rain, and like the street lights kind of, show his shadow coming out. And like, it's such a great scene, man. Jude Law's in it. He plays kind of an unhinged murderer for hire, basically like a contract killer, or who moonlights as he's a crime scene photographer. So there's some really messed up scenes with him. He's just a nutty guy in this movie. It's just fantastic, dude. I think I found it scrolling through Netflix. I was looking for an old movie. What can I watch that's an old movie I haven't seen in a long time? And I just landed on that one because I was like, I've been meaning to watch this again. And sure enough, it's just freaking awesome. I don't know if it got nominated for Best Picture or what have you, but it deserved whatever act. I think Paul Newman did get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and it was one of his final roles until he just went to doing the Cars franchise for the rest of his life. And I think you and I decided officially that the Cars franchise killed him, right? That's what we're landing on?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's
the Cars franchise killed
podcast canon. Yeah.
It's a great movie, guys. Everybody needs to go watch that.
I'm gonna go watch it. I've never seen it, and for no good reason. Just
it's so great.
Dude.
It's a Kyle-ass movie too. I was telling you that too as I was watching.
I like gangster movies, man.
Yeah, it's a gangster movie, and it's like a father-son movie. And I know those
big sucker
type
for
of
that.
stories. Yeah, those type of stories speak to you. I know that.
Complicated.
It's complicated. I see the way you're. Okay, so. Nope, we're going to stop the Avril Lavigne sing-along. All right, so the next segment that I'm going to try to do every week is we're just calling it Pick 5. Again, not a creative title. But the segment's going to just consist of me and whoever joins the panel, Kyle, this week. We will each pick 5 movies of a certain topic. So the topic for this week are 5 movies that defined your taste in film. And, I mean, feel free to define that how you want, but some examples that I listed are like qualities you look for in a movie that help you relate to it. Like these are movies that you watched early on in your life that kind of made you go, oh, I didn't know I liked that in a movie. I want that in a movie going forward, basically. And it maybe, a movie that you watched early on in your life that you're like, oh, this is my favorite genre now, or certain character archetypes that you like might resonate with you, style of writing or comedy that you immediately gravitated towards, that just followed you for the rest of your life. So that's kind of what the list is, and it's not really ranked. We're just kind of going back and forth, one apiece, with 5 movies that fit this category. So why don't you hit me with one of yours? And I think we're going to have a couple overlaps here for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate, these are not my top 5 movies of all time, like you were saying.
Oh yeah,
just
totally
movies that just I look back on and go, oh, this really informs the way that I watch movies today.
Yeah, exactly.
The first one that came to mind, and I chose this one because this is like the very first like serious movie that I watched as a kid that everyone was like, why is he watching that? That's weird or whatever. It's Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
and that's definitely not in your top 10 of all time.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I just remember seeing this movie and as a kid, like being so weirdly obsessed with it in the way that like a kid my age would be obsessed with like Lion King.
Yeah.
But like, I was a weird kid, man,
Yeah,
like, like I gravitated more towards these like kind of real stories and weird characters you're meeting along the way, the sense of journey and sense of time passing and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
It's a coming of age story in many ways about a weird boy, which I related to in a lot of ways, and grew up a weird guy, which I still relate to in a lot of ways. And just it just looking back on that movie, I've seen that movie dozens and dozens and dozens of times or whatever, introduced me to a lot of actors I ended up going forward and really enjoying. Again, the humor in that movie is a little informative of that, like just weird kind of almost cringy humor sometimes, like your skin crawly humor, just situational skin crawly humor. And just
it's
reactional humor,
out, it's Forrest calling out the obvious in a situation that you normally shouldn't. Like it's like you ain't got no legs or whatever. Like and you're like, don't say that, dude. That's just or when
that's
he's trying to be
people
like,
are weird.
When he's trying to be a badass to that other I think it's like a Black Panther or something, but it's a white guy. Where he's trying to be like, I'm going to take her back to Alabama. And he thinks he's being a badass, but it's like just so awkward.
Yeah.
And falls on its face.
And then he leaves and he goes, I'm sorry I ruined your Black Panther party. Like it's just super funny to me. But yeah, I think that goes on to inform a lot of things about time being a big theme in movies that I really enjoy these days and stuff like that, and that being kind of a saga or an epic, which is another genre that I really enjoy.
It is an epic in a way, but it's like it's something about it's a most accessible, one of the most accessible epics for like all
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching 50 years or 40 years of this guy's life, you know,
right.
kind of going by, and it's just super interesting, and I just enjoy those kind of character studies. And again, just the friends you meet along the way type of journey, you know, that really resonates in a lot of movies and stuff that I enjoy today. So that's actually the very first movie that came to mind whenever I thought of this list.
That's awesome. I love that pick, and that kind of falls in the prestige drama. Why can I not today say the freaking phrase? Category, because I kind of split mine up into categories, and then there were some categories I omitted, of course, because it's 5. That's the fun of the list. You got to make some cuts. So in my prestige drama category, I ended up going with Schindler's List because I remember seeing that for the first time. Do you remember they used to air this uncut?
Yeah, it was a big deal. That it was
on like PBS or ABC or something like that, and they would like only have an ad every hour or something like that. That was like, you're watching this at commercial free because of blah blah blah. And so that was like my first experience with like a huge award-winning prestige drama that I was like, okay, this is actually kind of what I want out of storytelling. And talk about I mean, it is an epic in a way, because it's covering over so many years of World War II and stuff. But yeah, that's when I realized I wanted something that it's not as miserable to watch, but something that tugs at your heartstrings. Because by the end of that movie, dude, I'm a freaking weepy mess by the end of that movie every single time I watch it. And not that I watch it religiously or nothing, because it is a hard watch deliberately. And this is definitely the first Spielberg mention that I have of like 2. Because that dude informed a lot of how I watch movies now. But that definitely was a character piece that made me go, okay, I think I want this out of movies more. I want this is like a darker side of humanity that I want to see explored a little more. You know, I don't know. It's hard to describe. Why the hell would anybody want to watch something like Schindler's List again? But I just mean
it's borderline the same reason why we're all obsessed with like murder documentaries these days.
Yeah,
there is a human quality where we want to know what the spectrum is, so we know kind of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, exactly.
How bad can people get, so we can kind of navigate not doing that, you know.
And then how can you be a quote unquote good person, a decent person in those times where kind of like Harvey Dent says in Dark Knight, like you wanted to be a decent person in an indecent time, and how do you do that? Yeah. And Oskar Schindler is like trying his damnedest to do it under Nazi regime's noses, basically. And man, it's just one of the most powerful stories I've ever seen. And it's obviously it still sticks with me today. But I just knew that's what I wanted more out of those type of dramas that are like award bait dramas. I wanted that hard hitting, like I don't care how disturbing some of the stuff is, but this is like true to life human drama, character driven, great performances. Rafe Fiennes just doing some of the most crazy villain acting I've ever he does not know how to phone it in. Any role that I've seen him in, like even as Voldemort in the children's fantasy movies, you know, like it's just crazy. But anyway, that's one of mine. What's one of yours? What's another one of yours?
This one is kind of we're gonna laugh at this one, but that's kind of what it's here for. It's Scream.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah. Let me explain to you why, though, Jeff.
Sure.
You know, this was the very first, like, maybe scary. I grew up a big pansy, you know, and, like, didn't like scary movies, didn't like zombie movies or anything like that growing up, you know, until about the time Scream came out, and my sister kind of forced me to go watch it. She's like, you're going to really like this. It's kind of funny, which she was right. And I think you're gonna really like it. And that's what it got me into kind of like the genre of horror and everything like that was this movie. But it was also, and I didn't realize this until years later, was my first introduction to meta humor and meta entertainment, because this movie is all about dissecting the genre of horror movie that it's in. You know, it's occupying the same space that it's trying to either point at or make fun of or make observations at. And to this day, that's the type of entertainment that I like to watch, whether it be Rick and Morty or the fourth Matrix movie, you know, or anything like that. This like very self-aware, I'm making comments about everything that's going on type of movies or whatever. So, that kind of generated from Scream for me, you know.
Yeah.
Again, it's the type of kind of like teen like bullshit horror that we enjoy in the Quarry, a game that we all enjoyed playing last year. It just kind of informs a lot of stuff that I still enjoy today. And talk about a series that's still going on, peaks and valleys and stuff like that. We got a new one coming out. It's still a series that I enjoy checking out and everything as well. But really, the things that it introduced me for is the reason it made this list, not because of its being a prestige horror movie or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not quite like that. And horror is not even a genre I thought I would represent on this list, to be honest. But it is a genre that I do enjoy. Maybe I'm more of the thriller side of things. But I just really enjoy the meta commentary in these types of movies, and it's the type of thing that you and I like to dissect. Just like look at it making fun of itself here.
Yeah.
So had to make the list.
They nailed that again last year with the Scream 5. Don't call me Scream 5. Scream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not Scream with a 5 in the title.
Yeah, exactly. Which would have made sense, but okay.
Put that S should have been a 5,
Yeah, if I had
right there, guys.
chosen like a horror / meta category or whatever, Scream would totally be it, because I wore out that VHS. Like I used to watch that religiously. And I think that was my first introduction into like that horror genre, and that kind of pointed me in.
Maybe I saw like Child's Play on TV and stuff like that. Maybe I saw some other movies like on TNT or something like that. But like I'm talking going to a theater and watching a scary movie in a theater this was Scream.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of go with like a horror adjacent movie, because there's definitely some horror in the movie. But this is the one I saw the latest in my life. I think I saw this in my early 20s. And this was when I went, I want more of these type of movies. And this is I would define this as art house type of snooty, pretentious movies. So I went with Clockwork Orange for this because
love it.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick, man. This was the first movie of his that I watched that I was like, I want more of this type of style. Like I want to see more of this type of weird, like incredibly slow paced, deliberate, really offensive to watch on many levels. Like there's a lot of messed up things that happen in the movie. I just wanted more of that nuttiness, and I feel like it tackles some of those really, really messed up things that Alex does in the movie, with kind of like a humor to it, and it wants you to feel bad for laughing. The movie wants you to feel bad on many levels. Like at first it wants you to feel bad for watching what he's doing on screen. And they're almost, Kubrick's almost kind of glorifying it in a way, where it feels like a circus act or something that's like entertaining. So it wants you to feel bad on that level. And then when he gets caught and there's trying to force him to like change, and be a different person entirely, and they remove his free will, they want you to feel bad for him in that sense, despite all the horrible stuff you just saw him do. So it's just such a crazy juggling act that Kubrick does here. And it made me, it turned me on to the art house type of genre of filmmaking. And now I'm all about the slow pacing stuff. Like I feel like Nicholas Winding Refn, somebody we just talked about, does that extremely well. He does the same kind of thing though, where it's like playing with colors and like playing with he's more obsessed with neon lights, but you know what I mean? Like he's obsessed with the production design and the symmetrical shots. And
I said in chat, I was like, they spend so much time lingering on a scene that he had to make every shot and every single one of his scenes like a wallpaper,
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be an HD wallpaper somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like Kubrick did that, especially with Clockwork Orange. Don't get me wrong, there was definitely some parallels in his filmmaking style with like The Shining and stuff like that. But Clockwork Orange was the first one I saw that made me go, I want more of that. I want more of that type of cinematography in my life, basically. So yeah, that's one of mine. What's another one of yours?
I'm going to piggyback off of your kind of art house pick or whatever. And maybe this is not exactly art house, maybe not exactly indie, but it's pretty adjacent or whatever. It's the very first movie I remember watching and going, I want more of these high concept, deep thought movies. And that's What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, that's a really good pick.
I forget what year this came out, but it was definitely one that I saw in theaters that like I don't know what brought me there. My sister or maybe my dad. My dad's kind of a filmy guy himself or whatever. But first off, it was the first time I ever saw a comedian, and put in a real performance. So I was like, oh, okay, so everyone can do everything if they're talented enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if you're good enough, you're not just in one lane or whatever. And so like that was pretty informative for me. But also just like that movie is really, I mean, the first part of that movie when he gets to heaven, like it's made out like an oil pastels and stuff like that. And it's got such a style and such vibrant color usage and everything like that. And just and thinking about how the afterlife works, and like they don't really lean into it being like a Christian mythology or anything like that, but there are elements of those things that are in this because it's kind of a lot of people's understanding of the afterlife is a place where good people go, a place where bad people go, you know. And this movie explores that in a really big way. And I remember it being a movie as a young Kyle that it was one of the very first ones that challenged me to really think about, like, what was that movie about, and like what was it trying to say, and connecting on those deep levels that he had, like with his kids and meeting with his wife and everything again, like just those big emotional character moments and stuff like that movie has. Like it was a movie, like kind of like what you were saying with your last couple movies. I was like, this is what I want out of movies when I show up. Doesn't have to be, you know, pew pew lasers and kung fu and whatnot.
And we'll get to those.
Those are great and have their place, you know. But like movies can also challenge you to really think and feel and everything like that. And that was definitely maybe the first one that at least comes to memory immediately.
So that kind
of fits that.
I think it wasn't until we were podcasting regularly. Like I think it might have been the tournament one that we were doing that I saw that movie finally, because I knew it was going to come up on the tournament. And I saw that for the first time in whenever that was, 2018 or whenever. Yeah, dude, the visuals it's such a striking movie, dude.
Still holds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that they shot it, like it doesn't like it's creepy, you know, it's creepy when it needs to be, and it's beautiful when it needs to be, and it hits both of those notes in really big ways.
And Robin Williams, like you said, serious Robin Williams, that ended up being kind of like what I remember him for the most now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, his stand-up is unforgettable, especially like I think there was one that we played regularly in Blockbuster closer to closing time when there was nobody else around because it was very vulgar. Sure. But yeah, we played that one I think it was the Broadway one. We played that one
live on Broadway
all the time. Loved it so much. But yeah, I mostly think of him as you know, Awakenings Robin Williams, or What Dreams May Come, or Good Will Hunting. I think of him as that Robin Williams.
Yeah.
He's just so good, man. He's
great in that movie. Yeah.
Cuba
Gooding Jr. is great in that movie. You know, I forget who plays his wife, but she's amazing in that movie too. Wonderful flick.
What a good choice, man. I don't know how in the world to transition to this one. This is a comedy pick, and it's one of the quotes in the intro theme. It's Dumb and Dumber. I had to.
Nice. I'm here for it. Yeah.
It was a toss up between this or Billy Madison because I still quote both to date. But Dumb and Dumber came first, so that one I know I wore out that VHS as well.
Yeah, this is a movie with the quotes got a lot of mileage in my life as well. Like where it's just that movie from start to finish. I could, you know, I've probably recited it at some point or another.
And it's still the type of comedy I look for, like in the new current era, where like we're book smart and you have Forgetting Sarah Marshall and I Love You Man and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of really dumb jokes in those movies, and they just.
You could tell the writers of those movies grew up watching those movies.
Exactly. The 90s era comedies that are just in such poor taste, but they're so freaking funny.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really glad you picked this because I really wanted to put one of these movies on my list as well, just to represent that, like the quotable nature of movies and that whole era of dumb comedies that we all participated in. Yeah, even Little Nicky, everybody. You were there. I saw you.
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't let those movies fly today. You know? Not because they're you know, like the humor is more now because it's stupid. You know, like it's a bit, you know, but like that's kind of what we went for back then. You know,
right? Exactly. And for that, Dumb and Dumber was probably the first one that did that for me. You know, there were some people that were like, "Oh, Airplane was that for me," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Dumb and Dumber was my gateway to accepting the humor in Airplane, something like Airplane or Top Secret, or whatever, where it's like, okay, this is so dumb, I can't help but laugh."
Yeah.
But Airplane's like a different level of genius because of Leslie Nielsen and stuff. So I don't know. It's really hard
and it's like pure satire, also.
Definitely. Yeah. And they're definitely making fun of a movie I still haven't seen, which is Airport. Never seen any.
Me neither. You know what? Never gonna.
Yeah.
So.
Never gonna. Yeah, why? I've already seen the best version of it. It's Airplane. So that's another one of mine. What's one of yours? we're almost done with that. So
maybe this is a crossover one, so maybe we can just both talk about this one, The Matrix.
Oh yeah.
No,
Right
Kyle,
on.
it's like, oh yeah. Goddamn you, Cypher. We had a whole podcast about this this movie. So you and I are big fans, but just to get the no dust stuff out of the way, like this movie informed everything I love about action movies, period. Yeah, we may have grown up or with other action movies, of the Arnold Schwarzenegger variety and stuff like that, during the 90s.
Yeah.
John Woo and everything like that, but like The Matrix kind of brought that almost that Hong Kong style sentiment that John Woo was trying to break through with, but just could never get it to the next level, of Hollywood acceptance. The Matrix broke all those barriers and became this kind of like guidebook for like action movies going forward, whether it be gunplay or kung fu or anything like that. Everyone was trying to do a Matrix movie.
Look at the lasting impact of that style of action too, because we still have our favorite movie of last year had a huge Matrix theme to it. The entire multiverse thing of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
It was very Matrix influenced, and some of the fighting too.
Yeah, well, and they're fighting a war, and there's a rebellion going on, and yada.
And they would dial into using like a Bluetooth headset, dial into another version of themselves to attain their skills, right?
Yep.
It's the same exact freaking thing.
Yeah, there's kind of crazy. There's some big influences there for sure. Yeah. And even we have movies today that we enjoy, like The Raid and some of these Indonesian martial arts flicks that are coming out these days. It's like they wouldn't be here if it weren't for The Matrix. Like there's a lot of things crawled so other things could run type of conversation.
It came out in a time where I was watching a lot of Jackie Chan. Like my brother and I were watching a lot of Jackie Chan dubbed or subbed movies from like China.
Drunken Master and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. We love those movies. It was just the fact that they couldn't resonate here, not just because of language barrier, but because the stories were not. Other than maybe like a few exceptions, like Who Am I and stuff like that, the stories were not something that you would remember, like or take with you for the experience. Whereas The Matrix, the story is like the thing about
the thing. Yeah. So not only does it look good and it's a lot of fun and the action's really great or whatever, it's got it's got all that, but also it has the audacity to have this existential piece of media that like to this day people are going like, I don't know, man, we might be in a computer simulation. Today psychologists are saying that, you know what, there's a 90% chance we're in a computer simulation, so it's like it's something that like cascades through beyond just the movie itself or enjoying it as an action movie. It's kind of an identifier for philosophy and stuff like that as well.
Definitely talk about
the world is.
That movie definitely shaped not just my taste, but like how deep I wanted a movie to go philosophically speaking. Like, and that was like, oh, I want more of that. Where it's like not too much. You kind of still have to do a lot of homework yourself, but there's a lot of meat there to chew on for sure. Yeah. In regards to philosophy. Damn, that's such a great movie. It's my favorite of all time, probably still to date.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. And even stuff like just the subway fight scene and stuff like that, like it's like to today is still one of my favorite like sequences of all time.
And especially how they're paying homage to now current action movies pay homage to The Matrix, but The Matrix was pay homage to like Wild West movies.
Right.
With their Matrix slant, where obviously everybody has like zero gravity and stuff like that in The Matrix. But they're doing like the tumbleweed, which is the newspaper flying by.
It's flying by.
It's just so great.
It's got the most epic throat punch of all time.
Yeah, I know. Didn't we share a video with each other?
Yeah, where it's just him doing it over and over again.
And it's still him going through the other choreography, but then it comes back to him throat chopping him. Such a great throat chop moment. And Hugo selling it, next level selling.
Well, and it continued a trend that started in the 80s with like Ripley and stuff like that, of just being like, we got a badass chick too, with Trinity and stuff like that, and like she's like no damsel in distress or anything like that. Like she is there and kicking ass, and it's just it's so cool, and talk about a movie like I think it might get the wrong rap where it's like, it brought in this whole like trench coat persona type of attitude to kids and stuff like that.
There's some people that took the wrong message from it.
But really the what it had was a good representation of like strong kick-ass women, of Joe everyman men going through a quite Arthurian the one type of tale, and it just has a lot of tenets of classic storytelling, but like told in really like healthy and cool and unique ways for that time. And again, I just there's a lot of appreciation I have about that movie that just maybe love what people consider giant pieces of shit today, like The Matrix 4. So.
Right. And I still love that movie. Yep.
Still love that movie. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the people like trenchcoat people, and obviously there was a school shooting that was very inspired by The Matrix. Not that they thought they were in a simulation, but they like modeled their entire persona after how people dressed in The Matrix and stuff. Same thing for Fight Club, and that came out the same year.
Yeah. 99 was a pretty toxic masculine, year for.
It's like, no, it's not about guys beating each other up and embracing their masculinity. I'm sorry, it's just not
about anarchy, right?
Yeah. But whatever, it's fine. People take their own interpretations. That's the beauty and sometimes the horror of movies. Since The Matrix is a shared one, I'll just go to my last one. My last one that I have is the first time I went to a theater for a blockbuster experience. And I was like, oh, this is what I want out of blockbusters, is like that sense of wonder and stuff like that. And that was Jurassic Park.
It's such a good pick. Yeah.
Right?
I saw the movie maybe 9 times in theater when I was a kid. And to the point where my dad's like, I never want to see this movie ever again.
Oh man, I wish I did repeat visits that much in the movie theater when I was that age. But I just remember that one time going to theater, and the thing that sticks with me because I don't have a lot of memories of that age, because it came out in '93, so I would have been 6. So I just vividly recall the feelings of dread and stuff that I had in seeing just the cup of water shaking, the ripples shaking in the water as you hear the T-Rex walking in the background and stuff. And I'm like, that's it, dude. That's the Jaws effect, which I hadn't seen Jaws yet by that point. So like that was the Jaws effect of like, giving you this sense of dread or feeling, uneasy feeling in something that's totally off screen. That's about to, obviously then they show it on screen, and it's this animatronic, just amazing, immaculate miracle of a set piece, similar to everything else. I mean, that was such a landmark movie for visual effects. I didn't know that at the time, but watching it as a kid, I'm like, oh, this is real. People for real went and found dinosaurs and like revived them somehow. Like it's just that's what I wanted.
Real than all basically. The CGI that is used in today's cinema. Like it's exactly. Still like that's how good it looked,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just that's when I kind of figured out like that's what I wanted out of the immersion, the immersive experience of a big popcorn blockbuster.
Yeah.
Was that they're still trying to emulate today with Marvel movies, and Avatar, I guess you could argue it does that, the new one, within the 3D and like how freaking lifelike it feels when you're in that movie. I guess there's some of that with the visuals, at least. With the story, I can take it or leave it. And I guess you could argue the same for some people with the story of Jurassic Park. I don't necessarily agree 100% with like the story being quote unquote paper thin or whatever. But it is a movie you go there for spectacle, and I feel like that's the spectacle I've been looking for ever since. Is that type of experience, and I feel like trying to think of another movie that might have done it as well since then, and it's really hard to think of one other than like maybe Fury Road. I mean, is that a blockbuster? I mean, I don't, it's hard to. I don't know, man. It's really been impossible for directors to get to that level again. Really, even Spielberg, he tried it with Ready Player One, and I enjoy that movie a lot, but it's no Jurassic Park, dude. There hasn't been anything like it since then, in my opinion. At least I'm talking just immersion experience.
Yeah, right.
And you can say Avatar all you want, but there's only so much water I can take. I'm sorry. So hit me with you. How many do you have left?
I just have one left. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have the one left, and it's kind of built off the same thing where you're talking about maybe not on the immersion side, but like spectacle and everything like that. It's Star Wars, baby. Jurassic Park is there because Star Wars got them there.
That was a tough cut for me. That would have definitely been like my fantasy kind of pick too. Alternate.
And the Star Wars kind of stands in for like Lord of the Rings and so many other like just like pure fantasy world building type of experiences. Star Wars I had to end up choosing because I'm just like the Star Wars guy, Jeff. That's not the reason.
Yeah, that's your thing, man.
It might actually be the very first piece of thing that I was ever shown ever, because I don't have a memory of seeing Star Wars for the first time. And my mom and dad have stories about like, you like we would just leave it on like when you would be like 1 or 2. So it's like something that's like always was like playing in the house, like while I was growing up. So it's like everything that I saw kind of going forward was always like kind of like Star Wars was like the foundation of like my movie seeing, career or whatever. And which is kind of poetic in a way, because it rhymes or whatever, like the meme. But like it's very basic storytelling, good versus evil. It's very basic storytelling, and it's Arthurian type of storytelling. Like I was kind of saying with The Matrix as well. It's just it's got all that kind of traditional storytelling that just makes for a very simple story, but gives way for bigger concepts and ideas, stuff like that. And that is in the way of like the makeup design and the costumes and the animatronics and the puppets and everything that they used in this movie, including the miniatures and the real explosions that they used and everything like that. It's just like, it's something that held up, it stands the test of time. People still enjoy the regular cuts more than they do the CGI cuts, depending on who you talk to. So it's like, it's one of those things where like, it is very much a product of the 70s and everything like that, or the late 70s, but like also it kind of snuck in and handled itself in the way that like it's timeless, so it's super exciting to watch those movies. They're still doing, now it's a TV show, I guess. It's a TV show franchise. We don't do movies.
For the most part, it's just TV now.
But for the longest time, Star Wars was cinema to me. It was the reason that everyone went and watched Jaws, like the first official blockbuster or whatever.
Right.
All the reasons we go out and watch Mad Max Fury Road in the theaters, it's because we're all trying to run and capture experiences that we got when we watched Jurassic Park in the theater for the first time, and Star Wars in the theater, or not even the theater, but at home for the first time or whatever. We're all trying to capture those big moments of spectacle, which is what the Marvel movies are all about. They're just trying to have 13 of those moments in every single movie, where it's supposed to be the most important thing in the entire world, which sometimes they nail and sometimes they don't, but
sure.
It's that kind of spectacle culture that Nope's making fun of and everything sometimes in terms of its movies. But it's that thing that you and I and a lot of us crave. It's why Transformers makes a lot of money in the theaters every time it comes out.
Unfortunately,
we all want to watch these big movies with big events and big stuff, and that's the other thing. Like Avatar, it feels like an event, like a cultural thing that happened. Well, we were all there, man. We were standing in line with our blue face paint on. Or whatever.
Do you remember I still kind of get caught up in all the clips of from '99, right? That's when it came out. Phantom Menace coming out, and like news people are just interviewing people online and stuff like that, and asking for their reactions coming out of the theater, and everybody's just on the mountain of hype and spectacle that they just don't really truly assess what they feel about the movie until like years, not even years later, maybe months later or something like that.
Right.
Some of them are just like, yeah, it was great, I loved it and stuff.
Jar Jar Binks was the best, man.
Yeah, I know.
And I was there, I was 13, 12, 11, something like that, when that movie came out. And so like, I have vivid memories of going to the theater and like remembering the mass of people standing outside, waiting in line to get into the theater, and just like that being a full theater, and like every time a word that everyone recognized was said, everybody in the theater would just erupt and cheer, whether it be the name Obi-Wan or R2-D2 showing up or yada yada or whatever. And like that moment, that electricity or whatever, which regardless of what people want to say about the sequels or not, existed, when those movies came out again. Like people go and see these movies to like scream in excitement, and and you could say the same about even Jurassic Park and stuff like that too. Like where it's just like maybe you're not screaming out loud, but your body is like, look at that T-Rex, like
look at that, oh my god,
look at that raptor. It's the spectacle of it all, and it's might be the biggest reason we all go see movies, and it's definitely the thing that draws us all in first. And maybe you and I want to dive into the
our buddies on Current Gen, most of the time when they go to the theater, they go for the big blockbuster spectacle movies. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
That's why we're all here.
Those are the movies that are meant to be seen on the big screen. So I totally get it. But
no one starts watching a movie like Schindler's List. You start watching a big blockbuster, silly, dumb, fun movie.
And I could even
most
say
people's
that, like,
gateway into cinema.
Oh, for sure. I could even say that like Star Wars was probably the first thing I would have been watching at home regularly, because my sister, I have two older siblings, and both of them love Star Wars. My sister had the toys, my brother had some toys, so like it was all over the house. Like we watched the first one. Definitely, I watched the most, and I still watch the most. And so that would have been my alternate pick for like a blockbuster type thing, but I didn't get to see that in theaters until they re-released it, and they messed up the CG and stuff like that. Not messed up, but you know what I mean. He quote unquote tried to correct it or whatever, and you're like, okay, come on, dude.
Greedo shot first now, whatever. That's not going to cause any problems.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about Star Wars is that it informed kind of like the cool dude persona that I latch onto in movies.
Han Solo, yeah.
Han, Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones. You know, like your classic rugged male anti-hero type. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really, maybe Indiana Jones not so anti-hero, but like, you know, just that classic cool smooth one-liner type of, you know, like hero. I wanted to be Han Solo when I was growing up as a kid, man.
You can
like
kind of argue
he got the girl, he was cool, he had that gay but cool vest on, you know, like he had the cool ride,
you
know,
kind of
like
argue the same thing for how people felt about Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Even though his character was supposed to be a nerd, he was still like a
very big sex appeal in that movie.
A big sexy feel, man. He had his button-up shirt all the way more than halfway.
Remember when he was sitting sideways and breathing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's good stuff. Yeah,
that's the people. That was
people
the
were
cool
thirsting
guy
on him
after
after Fly, though. Remember when he came out naked on the Fly and he's like jacked? Yeah, people were thirsting pretty hard.
That's right. I forgot about that. Because I didn't see that movie until adulthood. So like, yeah, that's a great movie though.
Good movie,
So that's our pick 5 for the movies that shaped us or shaped our taste. I'm probably going to put it in the thumbnail or whatever the title of the episode is, movies that shaped us, because shaped our taste is a little, I don't know. It's a weird phrase. I wanted to wrap up the show because it is called Current Cinema by seeing what America's pick 5 was so we can judge them harshly. And that means the box office. So this is going from 5 to 1. Number 5 this weekend, and this is a 3-day weekend time of this recording. Number 5 is Plane, that new movie I'm never going to see.
Wow.
Number 4 is A Man Called Otto. I'm surprised it made that much. It's a Tom Hanks being a bitter old man movie. It's actually quite good. Number 3 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I'm glad that's doing well. That movie is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Mithrigan.
What?
Megan.
Mithrigan.
Mithrigan. It's Megan.
I'm surprised it's doing so well in January.
I know. It's a graveyard shift of a movie release month, but they've done really well despite how dumb that movie is. And you know, and it is deliberately dumb. It's aware of how dumb it is, and I think that definitely adds to the entertainment value of it. I didn't love it as much as there's some people that absolutely adored this movie, and they were like, "It's kind of genius," and I'm like, "It's kind of not." Like, it's
maybe we hold that word off. You know? Let's not ruin what that word actually means.
Yeah,
please.
You're watering down that word.
Yeah,
and then, of course, number 1 is some dumb James Cameron movie nobody cares about. So
Terminator 3.
Is that the one he endorsed wholeheartedly, or was that Genesis? I think that was Genesis.
I forget. Yeah.
You guys are gonna love this movie, man.
You guys are gonna love it. I have my stamp of approval on it. I'm like, you made Avatar, dude. I don't know how much that stamp is worth these days.
So that's what America's doing, and it sounds like Avatar is going to break 2 billion, like James Cameron wanted to. And I loved how he phrased it in an interview, because he never shuts up now.
I guess I got to make those movies.
I guess I got to make these. Like, no, you don't have to. You can just go make something else now. You can just be like, screw it.
A lot of us want you to.
You can do the Arthur, not his name's not Arthur Miller, George Miller thing. You can do the George Miller thing and just be like, hey. I know you guys want another Mad Max movie, but I'm gonna go make this like genie movie with like Idris Elba instead.
Right.
Why not do that, man? Give me your genie movie or whatever. Like, give me your weird sci-fi whatever fantasy movie before you do another Avatar. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that's all we got for this week, and hopefully you guys tune in for next week when we talk about, I don't know, whatever the hell else comes out. Then I think I'm seeing there's another one of those. Do you remember this movie? I think John Cho did it from a couple years ago, maybe longer, where he's looking for his daughter or something. But it's
I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, they're doing another movie like
Missing
that.
or something.
Yeah, they're doing another movie like that called Missing, and I'm gonna see that on Thursday. But that John Cho one, I held off because I was like, I hate the gimmick. I hate doing everything on phone screens and webcams. Hate the gimmick. And then I saw the movie and I was like, all right.
Was that before COVID too?
It was pretty good.
Was that a pre-COVID movie?
I think
John Cho one?
It was.
So like they did a COVID movie before COVID movies were cool?
Yeah, they did it before the pandemic. This was kind of funny.
It's annoying.
So I'll try to at least talk about that next time we record. And my hope is to do this weekly, but if that doesn't shake out that way, we'll see what happens. Like, we're kind of going to be loosey-goosey with the schedule on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for those of you that tuned in. We are on Letterboxd, and that's letterboxd.com.
No E.
I think you're Everchosen on there, and
I think it's just Everchosen, yeah.
I am jmwsongs, but that's like a social media kind of adjacent platform for movie nerds and stuff to post their thoughts on movies and make lists.
We have a lot of lists there.
Resource. Yeah. It's a great resource for that. So yeah, just thanks for listening, everybody. And of course, we're still going to be on Current Gen. We're still going to talk about movies there a little bit. And thanks again, everybody. We'll keep at it. We'll keep at it. That's all I'm going to promise is we'll keep at it. Thank you, Kyle, for joining.
Thank you.